Hi, I'm Stuart. Welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back. Thanks for viewing my video. This video I give my reading wrap up for the week of 4/19/2026 through 4/25/2026. I completed one book, so I talk briefly about that book. I read parts of 3 books, so I talk briefly about those 3 books. I talk about my reading plans for the near future. I talk about the videos I released. I talk about the music I listen to, I talk about the video games I'm playing, and I talk about some other things going on in my life too. The book I completed is The Genius Bat by Yossi Yovel. As I said in previous videos, this book is mostly about the important people in bat research. It intersperses the author's own experience with the major figures in the field. The latter part of the book talks about conservation. One of the biggest issues with problems for bats is wind power. Something I probably should have maybe thought of, although I haven't thought too much of wind power, but certainly birds and bats could fly into the wind turbines and thus killing them. Some bats are particularly attracted to these wind turbines. You do get a difference between what the conservationists give as numbers of injured and killed bats and what the proponents of the wind turbines do. Another issue is just loss of bat habitat when people cut down their habitat for buildings, towns, whatever. I will hopefully in the not distant future have a review for this book. Did quite enjoy it. For me, it's probably going to be around 4 stars for me. I continue to read the Starfarer Series Books 1 and 2, Starfarers Transition by Vonda N. McIntryre. In this book, there is a giant spaceship, which is actually like a kind of a small world in itself, and the plans are for it to journey to the stars, but it's at a time where there is a dispute between the United States and the West and another part of the world. They don't use this word, but I think it's kind of like the Middle East. And the recently elected president is a anti-science person, and he wants to use this spaceship as a weapon. So at the point I am, we're just meeting the various characters in the book. But it is interesting, and realistically, because I know that there are 4 books in the series, I know that despite what the US president wants, it's going to have to go into space because otherwise you won't have 4 books. But there will be some difficulties getting there. The book came out, I think the first book came out in 1989, and in some ways it's kind of prophetic for current times, at least what I've read so far. A book I started is She is a Haunting by Trang Tranh Tran. And this is a YA horror novel. The protagonist of this book, Jade, is the child of Vietnamese immigrants. She is recently graduated from high school, and to get into college, she needs some funds. Her father, a few years back, had left the US and went back to Vietnam. So Jade has to live with her father for, I believe, 5 weeks and do some stuff to get the necessary funds that'll bridge the gap for her to be able to do her first year of college. Her father had returned to Vietnam to refurbish a house and turn it into a hotel, maybe sort of like a bed and breakfast. I don't know if it's here, although it's an upscale hotel. So the title of this book can have two different meanings. Don't want to say more, but I am enjoying the story. It does delve too into the history of when France occupied Vietnam and how the thoughts of the French people about the Vietnamese people, and not surprisingly, they weren't very positive. So it delves into that too. And how Jade feels between. She doesn't really feel part of the U.S., but she's not part of Vietnamese people either, because she wasn't born and raised there and lived there her whole life. She's a Haunting is a book I borrowed from Libby. Maybe a couple years ago, I asked Libby to notify me if they got it, and they recently did. I like to think the fact that I asked for that notification helped in the decision to get the book, but I can't be sure of that. Another book I started is Threads of Aethercode by M.J. Rucinski. During a library visit, I noticed there was a small section of books by local authors, and this was one that stood out to me, so I picked it up. I started reading it while in the library. There are three girls, Lily, Ari, and Shauna. They are all very tech savvy in their own ways. They attend an expo for a company called Stratus. There is something called Aethercode, which is a code that you can do a lot of things with. The Stratus has created a world called Import, and they control various aspects of it with the Aethercode. At the expo, something goes wrong, and Lily, Ari, and Shauna are thrust into Import, different locations of it. And from that point, they're trying to remain safe and get back together. There is a dark side to what Stratus is doing. I found so far, I think there's really good world building in this. It can be a little confusing at points, but I really like it. Lily, Ari, and Shauna are on the verge of entering high school, so I think that this book would be considered a YA sci-fi novel. Very creative. As far as my plans for the near future, they are to complete She's a Haunting and Threads of Aethercode. I am considering maybe getting back to reading a book or more in the Fable book clubs I'm part of. I haven't done that for several months. As far as the videos I released 2 videos. They were Reading and Life Update 2 in Barnes & Noble and library book hauls. On Saturday the 25th, I took part in a YouTube live discussion of Merrick by Anne Rice. This discussion was led by Elaine at Cobalt Dragon. Elaine is the creator and moderator of the Vampire Chronicles group, a group that currently includes Leslie at Bookers and Purrs, Kat at Ginger Bibliophile, and me. Because she was under the weather, Kat decided not to appear on screen, but she did enter a lot of comments in the chat. It was a great discussion. These discussions always bring up stuff that others in the group don't think of, actually, I don't always think of the things that I think of until we discuss things that I mention, but quite an interesting discussion. I will try to remember to include the link to the replay of the live stream. The next book we're going to read is Blood and Gold, I believe. I didn't work on any woobles, so there is nothing to talk about as far as woobles go. I mostly listen to Sarah Landry and music that followed afterwards on her, and music that followed after on Tidal when I listened to Sarah Landry. Played similar songs of other people too. I've been playing a couple video games. I played Wildflowers. I actually completed the main storyline. There is still more to the game, but I did complete the main storyline. I found the resolution of the main storyline very satisfactory. I also continue to play Tamagotchi Life, Living the Dream. I am enjoying it. Other than that, I did the normal things that I do. Went to the local mall and walked, went out to eat a few times. There also was a couple of medical appointments I had, so I am going to give an update on those. As I always do, I will put a little text box in the lower left corner saying medical update, so if you don't want to look at it, you don't have to. Of course, you never have to, but for those who might generally want to watch my videos except for that stuff, I have said everything else I want to say except for the outro, with the exception of medical update. So if you do stop watching at this point, you haven't missed anything about books or anything else in my life. First appointment I had was with my dentist, mainly with a hygienist, to get a cleaning. And the cleaning went well, but the dentist took a look at the teeth and saw that in my lower left tooth, far left, there was a filling that was coming out, I guess, and there was a crack in the tooth. So I need to get a crown. Wasn't really happy about this. I thought I was done with this stuff when a year or two ago I had a lot of work done. But it is what it is. Their computer was down that day, so they couldn't take an x-ray. They need to take an x-ray to send it to the insurance company to get pre-approval. So I have an appointment for Tuesday, April 28th to get the x-ray done. I kind of almost would like to hope that look at the x-ray, discover there wasn't an issue, but that's an unrealistic expectation. I had talked in previous videos my experience with the work done on my teeth before. The dentist does a good job, but he would berate me sometimes. So it wasn't a great experience. You may ask why I'm still going there, but I have a long history with the dental office, and I love the hygienist. Thursday I had an appointment at the dermatology office I go to with the dermatological APRN. It was mainly to look at the area of my lower right leg that they had removed a basal cell carcinoma from, to see if it looked like it was healing properly and there was no issues. And she did discover that it looked okay. She recommended I put Vaseline on it to help it heal. There was an area on my upper left face, a little behind my eye, that was a bit of a concern. She noticed it, but she said it looked okay. And there was also there had been a red spot in my upper right arm that she had frozen off with nitrogen. She looked at it and thought she should freeze the area off again, so she did so. And she recommended I just keep track of, especially the leg area and the area of my upper right arm, just to make sure there weren't further issues. So it's something I gotta be aware of, to frequently just look and see if there's anything that's new or changing that might be an issue. I would be interested in knowing what books you're reading, music you're listening to, other things going on in your life. If you'd like to tell me, if you would, please add a comment. If you can't think of anything else to comment, please add an emoji. Pick one of your choice. I hope you had a wonderful reading week. I hope you had a wonderful week in general. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, please subscribe. Please hit the bell to get notified when I upload future videos.